Hello, everyone. It's Kailey and Peggy here again with Henry Ford Sandcastles, bringing you another episode of Grief and Brief. And today we're going to talk about a very important topic, which is suicide, here in honor of Suicide Prevention Month. And a question that we're asked a lot at Sandcastles is one that can be really difficult for many grieving caregivers to answer. And that is, how do I tell my child that someone they love has died? And I think this is difficult for two reasons. For one, it can be hard to talk about a death right after it's occurred, as that fresh grief can bring up so many different emotions. This can also be a difficult discussion to have because in talking with our children about death, we don't always know what to say.
At Sandcastles, we like to help families experiencing a death by using our three varies model. This is about talking about how someone has died. So this model talks and explains how someone has died, that their body stopped working for one of three reasons. The first, they were very, very, very sick, or they were very, very, very old, or they were very, very, very hurt. And this model is great for talking about most reasons that people die in a simple way that children can understand. When someone dies because they're very, very, very sick, with all three varies, it can help a young child to learn and understand the difference between their loved one dying of a terminal illness or the child getting sick with a cold, where they're just maybe a little sick or just a bit sick, not very, very, very sick. And while this model does a great job of helping adults talk with children about most causes of death, there are still some that are a little bit more complicated to share with a young child, including and especially suicide.
When someone we love dies by suicide and we're tasked with telling our children or teens the news, it's an incredibly difficult task. And there's actually a book by Linda Goldman called Breaking the Silence. And this book talks about helping children with grief related to suicide, homicide, violence, and abuse. And in that book, Goldman shares some really great language for talking about suicide specifically. She says, suicide is when people decide they do not want their body to work anymore and they stop their body from working. And you can tie our three varies method into this by diving a little deeper and sharing that when someone dies by suicide, they are so, so, so sad or so, so, so depressed that the only way the person believes they can end their pain is to end their life. They forget that they can get help and there's always another way.
It can be scary to talk with your child about suicide, as it may make you wonder if you might put ideas in their head or cause them to attempt suicide themselves. The important thing to know, though, is that talking about suicide is so important and crucial. When we can openly share about things like suicide with our children, it helps to not only dispel misinformation, but it helps to keep communication open and honest, leaving space for them to ask questions and share their feelings with you. You can even ask your child or teen directly if they've been having any suicidal thoughts, letting them know that they can trust you to help if they're feeling that way now or if they feel that way in the future.
If you notice any large changes in your child's mood, school performance, eating habits, or sleep, hygiene, relationships, it's probably a good time to check in with them about how they're feeling. If they mention any thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or their death, or they think others will be better off without them, you will want to get help right away. Remind your child that you love and support them and will get them help. There's crisis counselors available 24/7 if you call 988. They can help put you in touch with emergency services in your area. And not all children who mention suicidal thoughts are in crisis, but you should take all thoughts of suicide very seriously. The actions you take will help your child to navigate thoughts of suicide throughout their life.
There are many things that can help in the grief process after a suicide death, an especially important one being joining a support group. That is something that is beneficial for all ages, from young children all the way to adults. A support group can help to normalize the grief experience. It puts you with others who have experienced the death of a loved one to suicide and allows for sharing, listening, and asking questions with others who understand. If your family is interested in learning more about support groups or in learning more about talking to children and teens after a death, please reach out to us. We're always happy to help.